Hey guys, Mike here. Just a real quick update and then we'll get right to the episode. So, if you haven't already heard, the koozies are in. They come in 10 awesome colors and we're selling them for just $5 each, shipping included. You can't beat that, right? So head over to howmanyfingerspodcast.com and click on the web store link near the top right of the page, and that will take you to our Big Cartel store where you can purchase your very own How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up koozie. Also, as you'll hear us mention in this episode, if you tag us on Facebook in a selfie that features one of our koozies, you'll be entered in our first official contest. Prizes include movie posters, movie swag, and even a copy of our favorite movie, Deadpool, on Blu-ray. So if you want a chance to win one of those prizes, or if you just want to show off your sweet new How Many Fingers koozie, like us on Facebook, post a koozie selfie, and tag us. You can find our page at facebook.com/howmanyfingerspodcast. And of course, you'll need a koozie to post a selfie with, so again, you can purchase those at howmanyfingerspodcast.com by clicking our web store link or by visiting howmanyfingerspodcast.bigcartel.com. And be sure to stay tuned for more details about the contest and future episodes. That's all for now. Thanks for listening, and enjoy our drunken review of Swiss Army Man featuring Jordan Weinrich. Hey guys, I'm Mike.
And I'm Joe.
And you're listening to How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up, the podcast. And this week, we're reviewing Swiss Army Man.
You know, the one where Harry Potter farts? It's great!
Welcome to How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up, featuring two guys getting schlitzed and reviewing movies in a weekly podcast form.
And a special thank you goes out to Taylor.
Taylor Earhart.
Oh no, I'm sorry, Tyler. I don't know, I mixed his first name and his last name, and the Taylor Ihard. Taylor Ihard!
Taylor, it's so hard right now.
Oh, Taylor! Oh man, Tyler Earhart from Face, and he left Schlitzed on Facebook for us.
Yes, Tyler is the guitarist in my band, My As Fall Victim, one of my very good friends. Tyler, you're welcome on the podcast whenever you're ready. Just let us know.
I'm ready for you, Taylor.
The world is ready for Taylor Earhart to make her appearance on the podcast.
Oh no!
Yeah, that suggestion was on Facebook. If you have any synonym suggestions for us, hit us up on Facebook, How Many Fingers Podcast, Twitter, HMF Podcast, or Instagram, How Many Fingers Podcast, or on our website, howmanyfingerspodcast.com. And back on the podcast, we have a very special guest.
Back on the home front?
For the third time. The fourth time if you count the Establishing Shot episode he was on.
Ooh.
Jordan Weinrich!
I'm back! Oh man.
That's like an Independence Day reference.
Yup. Oh man. And
you can catch him on our Mad Max review,
and our
Revenant review, and then he was on one of the Establishing Shot. I think it was the Oscar nomination.
Yeah, we talked about all the nominations and all of that.
I called them the Oscards. This is going to be a fun episode. Me, Taylor, Oscard. And I think his website has changed since the last time he's been on here. You can now find Jordan Weinrich at redtorchvisuals.com.
That's correct.
That's right. For all your visual needs, he's doing photography, motion photography, cinematography, 3D animation, all that good shit.
All the fun stuff.
All that shit. And Jordan was also the cinematographer for In Development.
He was.
I was.
We did a fantastic job on that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
He did. He was also our cinematographer for Less Than 3. He shoots everything we do, really.
Yes.
So it's always
I do. Really do shoot everything you guys do.
Shitty YouTube skits.
Yeah, definitely.
If we ever do visual form for How Many Fingers, a lot of our promo photos have been shot by Jordan. Now that I think about it,
I think all of our promo photos
just
have
because
been
we're
shot.
recording here and we're like, Jordan, grab a camera,
Jordan, and we throw like a beer at his head. Like,
do your job for free.
respect me as an artist. You're my friend.
Just take the picture.
Oh boy.
So, as if we needed more, this week we're drinking Radler beer plus juice. Yeah, Joe, you bought this, so maybe you have more to say about it. I'm intrigued.
I went into my local liquor store, beer store in Pennsylvania, because their liquor laws are
There's no liquor there.
dumb. But anyway, I bought another IPA that I'm sure we'll drink at some point tonight, which was like $9.99 for like a 12-pack, and then I saw this was also $99.99. $100 for a 12-pack, and I said, "Whoa!" And it's by the very shitty beer company Moosehead. Hey, Moosehead, if you have any beer that you want to ship us, we'll be your sponsorship.
We said Shippy Brewing Company.
Shippy me
you're
a
gonna
beer.
Ship us all this beer because we're going to say kind things about your beer that we're going to try. Have you tried it yet? Or?
Shippy me a check. Yes, I have tried it. It's it's open in front of me, attached to my mouth. Yeah, it's interesting. I want to see what you guys think of it. So why don't you crack it open, my boys?
A nice good crack in front of the mic. Woo. And on my computer.
Crack. I haven't drank this before.
And all over your mic.
Wow.
It tastes exactly like what it says, juice plus beer.
Alcoholic apple juice.
Yeah.
This is like pineapple juice with maybe a bit of alcohol.
Yeah. It's surprisingly strong, though.
Where we got? Do
I don't actually know
an ABV or
where it is. But I remember feeling pretty good after it. After a can or two.
Does not look like it.
But yeah, it's fruity, it's beery. I'm enjoying it.
And you're gonna enjoy us listening to it. Or listening to us drink it. We're not listening to the beer.
Hell, I'm gonna go grab another real quick.
Is it saying anything?
What does this beer say?
Jordan, help me!
So if you were listening last week, we were announcing the start of our official first How Many Fingers podcast contest.
Mm-hmm. And
we're recording on the same night, so we don't really have much more information than we had last week. But just to sort of explain that, so we ordered a bunch of koozies.
We did.
We got beer koozies coming in.
We got 10...
By the time you're listening to this, they should be in our possession, Lord willing.
Right.
And we got 10 different colors. We got black, burgundy, camo, dusty rose. I love that name. Eggplant, hunter green, mint, navy blue, placid blue, and red. And just check all our social media. You'll probably be barraged with links to it at this point if you're listening to this podcast.
Definitely, right. And what we're doing with those is we're having a contest. And again, we spoke about it more at length in our last episode when we were covering Independence Day Resurgence. But the gist of the context is that...
The context of the contest?
The context of the context is that we're going to be distributing or selling these koozies, and then you can pick one up, and then once you get that, you can like us on Facebook. Take a... that was a shudder.
That sounds like an old-timey
for those of you watching.
Like the light bulb like cracking for an old time. But take a selfie with your koozie featured and tag us, How Many Fingers Podcast on Facebook, and we'll pick some winners at random. We've got some pretty cool prizes. We've got a Deadpool Deadpool Blu-ray with a digital download included. It seems like.
Jeez, Dad, they're not DVDs anymore. They're Blu-rays.
2016 Blu-rays. Everyone buys Blu-rays. Nobody just watches Netflix anymore.
They're special features.
And we've got some Spectre posters from our first episode. If you listen to the first episode, those are the scary paper masks that we were mistaken for young juvenile terrorists for having.
Definitely.
10 Cloverfield Lane posters and some Hateful Eight 70mm special release booklets. So if you're interested in any of those, or even if you're just interested in a koozie, you should buy a koozie. I think they're going to be $5 plus shipping included, $5 with shipping. And take a picture with that and tag our sexy asses on Facebook, and we'll pick a winner at random. It could be you.
Rep your boys.
Rep your boys.
You know,
they're gonna be hot.
Yeah.
If you've seen our logo, it's basically our logo in white on the colors I listed before. Can't go wrong with that.
Printed on both sides.
Yes. An extra 1 cent for.
It was.
We also paid the extra 1 cent to have them made in America.
In America,
not China.
Really, there's an option to have them made in America or
1
not.
cent, 1 cent
Yes.
per koozie, cheaper. No, more expensive to have it made in America.
right?
We could have saved money.
We could.
We could have saved.
We could have saved
we could have saved-
$2.
No, $1. We could have saved $1
Yes, true.
to have them made
In China.
in China, and we said, you know what, you guys are worth it.
Yeah.
Spend
America
10 extra
is
dollars
worth
in
it.
shipping.
No, the shipping would have been free.
Shipping was free either way. But now that you guys have heard about our contest, and I really hope you order those koozies because they're dope as shit.
Movies are expensive. Beer is expensive. Buy our koozies.
Yeah, really. If there's any way that you've ever wanted to support us, go ahead and buy a koozie or two. But let's get on with the review, because this is quite the movie. We're reviewing Swiss Army Man, if you didn't hear before, with our really stupid punchline.
Harry
But this-
Potter Fart Man?
This really has been since Sundance, the Daniel Radcliffe farting corpse movie, though.
Yeah.
But the IMDb description is, and I haven't read this yet, I'm reading this for the first time live with you guys. You guys are listening live. The IMDb description is, a hopeless man stranded in the wilderness befriends a dead body, and together they go on a surreal journey to get home.
That's a good description.
That's a pretty good
description.
yeah. Yep.
But I kind of prefer the Daniel Radcliffe farting corpse movie because that's not entirely far off from what
It's
the movie
not.
ends
No,
up
yeah,
being.
yeah.
And that's not even a criticism of this movie. That's a great thing.
Not
about
at
this
all.
movie.
Right.
Yeah, when are you going to watch a movie like that?
Yeah. I guess we'll go into some pre-notes, but I just remember us talking about this movie, and I feel like a lot of people talking about this movie since it premiered at Sundance.
Oh,
Just
definitely.
people walking out of the theater and, again, describing the movie like that, like the movie with a farting corpse in it.
Right. I've watched quite a few of the Q&As with the Daniels, and they said, and like they'll always like preface everything with like, hey everybody who stayed, hey, thanks everybody for staying, who've stayed this long. I don't know how you walk out of this movie though. It's an acquired taste, which me and Mike were messaging back and forth. And another film that we're reviewing tonight is The Shallows, and I said, I can't believe The Shallows has a better Rotten Tomatoes score than Swiss Army Man. It blows my mind.
Yeah.
It's like Bizarro World.
I mean, I can understand it. I mean, it's
What was Swiss Army Man's
abstract.
rating? Do you remember? 'Cause I think we always have this theory that like if it's around like 50, it usually just means it's more of like a polarizing movie.
it was 50.
Like, there's very few movies that are
50 or
50%
60.
bad.
Yeah, wasn't it like 60,
it's either bad
61?
or it's good.
I believe it was 50 or 60.
Anything in that range, I usually take to mean it's a polarizing movie. Like it's just too close.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The Shallows was 75. So I think like Swiss Army Man was like 63 or something.
Even 75 for The Shallow. I mean, we'll get into that.
That's-
in our
yeah.
review.
That is
just
Yeah, we're not
disgusting.
reviewing that.
3 out of 4 people thought. Again,
Yeah.
Rotten Tomatoes is weird.
It is.
We
It's a
probably have to
weird
look more
judging
at the
system. Yeah.
average rating, but 3 out of 4 people saying The Shallows is a good movie is.
This is why we create this podcast.
Yeah, so
We're truthers.
We're giving you the real deal about these movies.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have too much about these guys, but
right.
it was written and directed by Daniels. Is literally what pops up on the credits before the
It
movie.
is. Right.
And that's Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinart, however you want to say that. And I think this is their first feature-length movie. They've done a bunch of shorts and stuff before this, if I'm not mistaken.
It is. I'm kind of familiar with them. They are literally, and you can tell by this film, they are literally, their work is like born out of the Vimeo generation. They've done a lot of music videos. They've done music videos for Joywave, DJ Snake and Little John, Passion Pit, Foster the People, Tenacious D, The Shins, Battles, Chromeo, Manchester Orchestra, who also scored this film, The Hundreds in the Hands, and FM Belfast. One more note is that they won the Directing Award. Did I say that right the first time? I don't even know.
I think so.
And they were nominated for the Grand Jury Prize at the Sundance Film Festival in the dramatic category. So that's interesting.
Also, update, our pizza is on the way. We ordered a Domino's pizza before we started recording, and according to the Domino's pizza tracker, it left the Domino's store at 12:30 a.m. It's now 12:39. Was that a honk outside?
Yes, that was a honk outside.
I think the pizza might be here, so I'm going to go collect that. And we're back.
Oh, man. So Mike went to go get some pizza. If you
Right, so this is going to be a quick review because I want to get to eating that pizza.
I don't know how that left off. But yeah.
You're talking about the music videos that they shot and
Right,
the awards,
yeah.
the one award they won and the award they were nominated for.
Right. And their awards, I mean, not their awards. Their music videos are very in the same vein as this video. This movie, not this video. This movie essentially looked like one long sort of Vimeo like music video.
Yeah, and I think it's actually
agree.
described on Wikipedia as being... Oh, they actually changed it. Maybe it was on IMDb. I could have sworn I saw it somewhere described as a musical comedy drama.
Yeah, I can agree with that. And you can tell that this film is so good because of, I feel like the
because
experience,
of a lot of things,
experience that they have with music videos, and perhaps the preparation and the fucking detail that goes into this film. I think they know what they're doing, and I think they've been long overdue for a feature-length film.
Well, I'm not quite sure how true this is.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure that
Are these Jordan notes?
some of them.
We got some...
J-Notes! J-Notes! You're way too beautiful, girls.
I think that some of their short films were actually preparation for this film. I don't know if they had this idea first, but like one of their short films is something that turns into like someone riding like dogs as skateboards, very similar to riding Daniel Radcliffe as a like
Farting Daniel Radcliffe.
as a boat. Yeah,
As a jet ski, yeah.
I mean,
another one where like someone like vomits up like water or something, which is another huge part of this film.
Right, yeah.
And I forget what the third one was, but I don't know if they had the plan for this one in the works and they were making short films based on things they needed to test, or if they just kind of moved ideas
Like those
over.
themes, right, yeah.
I mean, I feel like there's a few movies we've reviewed already where it was just very obvious that like this is someone's first film, like
Right.
And we say that in terms of like they've been babying this idea for like years and years. They've had all this time to work on it, and then when they finally get their chance to work on it, there's no it's not just a job for them. It's their chance. So they put everything into it. Everything is meticulous and exactly how they want it. And this definitely had that feel to it. Much like The Witch did for Robert Englund.
Definitely, right, yeah.
Or there was another one we said that about.
Ex Machina.
Ex Machina, yes.
Yeah.
Is that Alex Garland or
what was that?
Alex Garland?
Yeah. And yeah, I do have some sort of parallels with Ex Machina later in my notes, but that's later in this discussion.
Preview of Joe Notes.
But I mean, we can just jump right into the film if you want. I was gonna say the film opens with trash floating in the oceans. The Daniels really like their garbage in this film. It's a pretty big motif in this film, and I'm sure we'll revisit it at several times. But we see 3 shots of just trash with handwriting all over it, and it goes from sort of like help and I'm stranded on a desert island and something about shipwreck or sort of boat accident to I'm so bored to I don't want to die alone. And the last piece of garbage is a bit more creative and the Paul Dano or Hank has essentially constructed like a little boat out of garbage with a guy in it. And it's cute and it's funny and it plays into the humor, but it's also a peek into how Hank expresses himself. And maybe I'll
And just to peek at like the art direction for this film.
Oh,
which
definitely
is phenomenal, and that's a big part of the style of the entire film is the way that Hank is just creating stuff out of just trash that he finds on this island that he's supposedly stranded on. And
this is the one like negative thing I'll say about the film, but I think this is like one of the notes I had about like Ex Machina or whatever. But as indie films often do, their protagonist will be like a sad white young male who's like creative and misunderstood and like has some sort of like crazy experience to help him like it's kind of like that pixie manic dream girl, but through a different experience. It's kind of like Ex Machina. It's kind of like, well, I mean, he dies at the end, but but it's kind of like Kick-Ass, or it's like 500 Days of Summer. I don't think Kick-Ass was independent, but these films
at the core, it's very stereotypical,
right?
But there's not much that's very stereotypical about this movie.
No, definitely, and I think I don't know, and I was going to give it like a preface, I guess, because like maybe because I'm a sad white young like white male who is slightly creative, I think like this really like sings to my tune.
Well, this film was essentially made for us. Yeah,
it was.
I was watching, and I was like, I can relate so much.
And I'm sure Daniels made it for them. You know, like this is what they're all about.
Yeah.
From what I understand, they had, well, I mean, really, no, I won't even get into that note, but I'm glad that it, like talking about what I said before, I'm glad that it never went into like, oh, and like him talking to Manny or whatever and being like, darn it, like the Paul Dano character being like, darn it, if only my like art installation where I make sculptures out of trash was like, it's not doing well at home in like my art exhibit, but wait, it's like helping me stay alive in the wild, kind of like I'm glad that sort of like cliche wasn't in there. His trash sculptures are more just like an extension of explanations that he has for Daniel Radcliffe's characters. They're just like props for his pseudo hallucination.
Yeah, maybe to set that up more. I mean, the film opens with that, but then we cut to a shot of Hank, the Paul Dano character, humming a catchy tune to himself as he's about to hang himself.
Like a soothing tune, I'd feel like, yeah.
And he's kind of like half-heartedly humming that. And as he's about to kill himself and hang himself, he sees a corpse wash up on the beach, which is the farting Daniel Radcliffe corpse.
Right.
And he walks over to it, and he's inspecting it, and they introduce the farting pretty early on in this movie.
Right.
Like pretty much right from that first introduction. And it's funny at first. They allow you to laugh at it, and then they kind of ease you into it. And then they kind of like start beating you over the head with it, which I thought was effective because it was kind of just like, all right, like just get your laughs out now. Like just get over the fact that this is a movie about a farting corpse on like a desert island.
Right, yeah.
And like it's effective because by like 10 or 15 minutes into the movie, like you're done laughing at the fact, like the fart jokes anymore.
Right, yeah.
Which I thought was really effective for what the actual movie is about. But I thought it also, as you can expect, the movie ends up getting very surreal and weird, and I think there's a lot of theories about what actually takes place in the movie, and I think they do a good job of fostering some of those theories right from the beginning, where you could probably make an argument that the entire movie takes place after he kills himself, and it's in his head from that very beginning hanging scene.
Oh, okay.
Which I thought was cool to just have that like right there in the beginning. But then they also they provide a few points throughout the movie too. There's another point where Hank literally has a line about, I'm probably just hallucinating because I'm so hungry. Like I think they give you a lot of
in
points,
the cave,
which is a cool thing about the movie, that like you can probably theorize for days about like what does it actually end up meaning in the end.
And they're very
and they feed into that and they know what they're doing.
And they're very sort of don't feel like they have to explain themselves in this movie.
Yeah, there's
You-
no
you get-
correct answer.
Right, you get to the end and there's no real explanation. I think they go through a few things at the end, which I'm sure we'll get to. But yeah, it's really kind of up to your own interpretation, which I think adds to like the loveliness of this movie. Loveliness.
And I think even if it is like, even if you're going to go with the theory that it's in his head or it's like a dream or something, in the moment it's still treated with a nice sense of like realism. Like, so this corpse washes up and, you know, he's farting and like Manny is kind of, or Hank rather, is laughing, like, you know,
And Hank
this
is
figures like,
Right,
as
yeah.
I'm about to kill myself, this corpse watches up and he's farting and he's still trying to like get out of there. Like, he finds the cell phone, he's like checking for reception. Later on, he discovers that like if, you know, Manny absorbs enough water throughout the night during like rain, he can like actually like spit out like water like a spigot, and like that Hank can drink. But even when he does that, like Hank is like disgusted like by the fact that it's like actual spit that he's drinking. Like he has to like choke it down. He's freaked out at one. There's a very iconic scene later on where Manny the corpse discovers that he can get boners and that his boners serve as like a special compass, which, side note, that's what I'm going to call my penis for the rest of my life now, is special compass. They literally call it that at one point. It was perfect. And then, you know, the first scene that like Manny speaks in, like Hank is like scared of that. Like it would have been a lot easier to accept like the in your head thing if he went along with everything. But it throws you for a loop because he has kind of a very real reaction to like,
Definitely, yeah.
oh God, like this corpse is like talking to me and I'm drinking his spit and he's got a boner and I had an idea and it actually turned out to be right idea to like follow his boner and stuff. So I think that is pretty cool, and the entire movie is very good at just throwing you for a loop over and over and over again.
It is, yeah. And again, yeah, the Hank character is played by Paul Dano, who is who again is presumably shipwrecked and washed up on shore of this very tiny deserted island. Yeah, and the Manny character is Daniel Radcliffe, who washes up on shore and, yeah, again, eventually helps him. And I mean, like, right off the bat, yeah, he starts farting and then he kind of starts taking off in the water. And, like, the title sequence is Paul Dano riding Daniel Radcliffe as a jet ski, who's farting, and they're, like, tearing across the ocean.
And then he even acknowledges that at one point, like Hank is kind of like talking to himself, and he's like, I literally like used his gas like a jet ski or something.
Something like that, yeah.
Kind of like making fun of himself. That's something that I really liked about this movie, is that it could have like gone really deep into like, oh, it's in his head, and like, you know, had him not really be like shocked by this stuff, but he has very natural reactions to like, I'm probably hallucinating because I just rode that guy like a jet ski across the water.
But he's also very thankful, like when he washes up on shore and he says like, I'm here and like this is my name, and he's like, and I must find this person who I owe my life to because like he saved me. And again, it's kind of funny when he is on that island, he's about to hang himself, and he finds something that washes up on shore, and he thinks like, oh, my salvation, kind of like, you know, and it's a dead guy, and on top of that, he's just like relieving himself, kind of.
Farting.
Yeah, he's farting.
Yeah, there's a whole like emotional line where he finds him. He's like, for a moment, I thought that you were like there to help me. And then in the middle of that line, he starts farting. Yeah.
But he. I don't know. Yeah, it's just kind of like this kind of. He approaches him on the beach when he washes up, and it's kind of like this, like, instead of the salvation, it's like this black hole or just meaningless void in his, like, own existential kind of, like, he's about to hang himself. And maybe I'm, like, digging too deep into this one, but I feel like Manny, the farting corpse, is kind of like the monolith in, like, Stanley Kubrick's, like, 2001 Space Odyssey. Like, you know, like, they think it's gonna be something special, but what it is what it is kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, from there...
Well, I mean, I think the kind of driving force of the movie ends up being, he's obviously got this corpse. He starts realizing that it has some weird special powers, and he ends up. And obviously, that's where the movie's title comes from, Swiss Army Man. It's something that he can use as a tool. All the different body parts that this guy has.
I also like that they never said Swiss Army Man. He says you're like
multi-purpose tool.
Multi-purpose tool.
At one point, Daniel Radcliffe's character says Multi-Murpose tool. Mispronounces. I really like that. But the driving force of the movie sort of ends up being that when he first watches up, he has like no movement skills. He's just farting, and it's kind of the reanimation of this Daniel Radcliffe corpse, where he first is able to like start speaking a little bit, but he can't move his lips, so he's kind of like mumbling. Then he starts to get more audible. Then he can sing. Then he can move his lips. He starts like talking better, and the Paul Dano character kind of starts to theorize it, like, well, maybe like you can like help us find the way home if I can help you remember enough about your life from before. So he starts teaching him all this stuff about life, and there's this really beautiful montage of him just teaching Hank what it's like to be alive. And I think that was probably like the best like 5 minutes of the movie, and like when cinema this year.
When they're in like the cave
so
and they've washed up on shore, and he's building shit out of like the sculptures or whatever.
Yes. I mean, there's a few montages in this movie, but that first one especially was really, really great. Just all the different ways that he's teaching Hank, who is literally just this corpse that he has to drag around. Sometimes he can't even move his mouth on his own, and what's his face? He's like, this is what it's like when you're happy, and this is what it's like when you're sad, and this is how you eat, and this is how he doesn't teach him how to masturbate, but he's like, this is what porn is like, and all this stuff, and just teaching him everything that it's like to be alive. And it's a great writing tool because it ends up being a window into the Paul Dano's character, because it's like, oh, this is what he perceives it's like to be alive, and this is how he would teach a reanimated corpse what life is like.
And it's a very literal sort of like, it's like when you're trying to, like, I feel like teachers or anybody who is teaching you how to teach, it's kind of like, what if an alien landed here right now and they didn't know anything about our world? How would you explain that to this person? And that's essentially what this entire movie is. And, and he doesn't understand the little sort of social norms or everything, and and I don't know, it plays so well into the Paul Dano character.
I think another thing and a huge thing to talk about in this movie is the music and the soundtrack.
Oh god,
like even right from the very beginning, where there's the first shot of him like in the cave, he's about to hang himself, and he's singing, and it's not bad, like he's humming rather, and it's a catchy tune, he sounds good. And then as we go on, he's singing more and more, and we come to find out that a lot of the songs he's singing, which I think is great for like a desert island movie, literally, is just like the fact that like if you were stuck on like a deserted island, like songs get stuck in your head, and you don't have like an MP3 player to play something else to get stuck in your head. There's even one part where he's like,
it's always just the most catchy stuff.
He's singing Cotton Eye Joe, and he's like, oh, why is it always fucking stuck in my head?
Like, the worst songs are always fucking stuck in your head.
So the entire soundtrack is written or composed or arranged by Manchester Orchestra, but a lot of it is lyrics from songs that are stuck in his head, like Cotton Eye Joe, set to different like tunes, but really beautiful like a cappella tunes. I think a lot of them, I don't know if all the voice parts, but definitely some of the voice parts are sung by Daniel Radcliffe and Paul Dano themselves. There's one point where I forget exactly how it comes up, but there's like a triumphant moment, and he's humming the Jurassic Park theme. Oh,
isn't that when he like just first starts talking, and then Daniel Radcliffe starts humming it, and he's like, "Oh, Jurassic Park?" And he's like,
"Yeah,
what's Jurassic Park?"
The corpse does something, so he starts like humming, like just because that's his reaction to something epic happening is the Jurassic Park theme. And then he start talking about that. Yeah, but like, so that's a theme musically that comes back later is Jurassic Park. Cotton Eye Joe is a huge theme. We couldn't figure out which song it was, but the song he's humming in the beginning has a really catchy melody, and that's like a theme throughout it. And it's just such a beautiful fucking aesthetic for this movie, is just this a cappella arrangements, like clapping and like knee slapping and stuff for the percussion of this stuff. You can really hear it in the trailer if you listen to it. Like you can even see Daniel Radcliffe like bop bop bop, like singing that. It's so good, so catchy. It's really well performed, and it still has like the nuances of sort of like a live performance to it. Like they did a good job of it not feeling like studio recordings.
Definitely,
that were just that we're seeing like lip syncing to. Like it felt like it belonged in the movie, in the possibly mind and weird hallucination of this like Hank character as he's just remembering songs that are stuck in his head throughout the entire movie.
The other parallel that I have with, and this is where I'm going to really like start sucking this movie's dick, is it has
Listen close, folks.
it has like these parallels to what we had with Ex Machina, or at least in my opinion, what we had with Ex Machina last year, where we said like, this is the best movie of the year, and you know, and I don't necessarily know if you guys feel about this, but this is the best soundtrack of the year, and I can't see it being matched. It's just kind of like, how can you match, like, if Daniel Radcliffe
that would stand in its way is that a lot of it's not original in terms of the writing, and I think they might run into some problems in terms of nominating.
Oh my god! I know the Jurassic Park theme song is gonna
like Hot Eye Joe and stuff like that. I don't.
Those are the lyrics, but like I think of like that one Darren Aronofsky
the Oscars
film,
best original score. There's no like best soundtrack.
Right, it's gonna be like the Darren Aronofsky like Black Swan or whatever, because it borrowed from Swan Lake. Borrowed from Jurassic Park.
The only thing I could think that could potentially beat it, I don't know if it's happening, if there's a movie that comes out with Trent Reznor doing the soundtrack again, or Karen O.
But again, I don't think this will be nominated at all because of those reasons. If it was nominated, I would imagine this would walk away. I know there's been multiple quotes from Daniel Radcliffe being like, this should be the Oscar winner for soundtrack. Like,
it really should.
It should.
And it's beautiful, and it's such a big part of the movie. That's why they call it a musical.
And I hope somebody out there is saying it, because Daniel Radcliffe should be up and he should win the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, because playing a dead body that has come to life, and I believed it. It was so real, and it's the best thing I've seen him in.
He's tried to do stuff since Harry Potter.
Right, exactly.
And we've all kind of just approached it with like, oh, okay. Like,
here's Harry Potter.
What you're trying to do.
Exactly.
You're trying to separate yourself from Harry Potter, and we haven't been able to get rid of it. I think this is the first movie where I'm fully like, yes, Daniel.
Back at it again with
he really separated himself in my mind. I was not like, we made the joke about it because it's Daniel Radcliffe, but honestly, I didn't think about Harry Potter once. While
he's not Harry Potter here.
He's not. He's not even British in this movie. Like, the accent is like indiscernibly American in this movie.
And fucking nominate Paul Dano.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. The kid must have the best agent in the world, because he
Has
gets
he not been
these
nominated before? Or?
I honestly don't know. But he gets the best films. I mean, he was the brother in Little Miss Sunshine, and he's the pastor in or preacher in There Will Be Blood, and he's in everything that you like. If I had to be like a famous actor and like have X amount of roles, I would just want to be Paul Dano. Like, he just gets all the best roles. And I think I even read something about him wanting to do something with Daniels because he was a big fan of their music videos. And
I didn't read about that. How did someone's first feature get these people in it? I couldn't find anything. I was actually trying to find
these are actors that they're willing to do these types of, like, Paul Dano consistently does roles like this. Like, he's not the type of person that like sells blockbuster movies.
Oh, definitely.
Daniel Radcliffe obviously was, but he's trying to separate himself from that. So he's going to consistently do movies like this.
I was very curious about the Daniels, and they've constructed these literally Hollywood level sort of music videos in these very high concept like that nobody else is doing, and maybe only people on Vimeo appreciate. But from what I understand is that they were in the Sundance Labs or whatever, and like, where they're kind of prepping them, and that's where they did this. But again, I think Paul Dano said he had written some sort of like Gmail draft and just never sent it out to his agent, and then days later it kind of like slid across his desk or slid across his Gmail, and he said, I was like 2 pages into it, and he was like, I'm in. Like, I'm down for this kind of like thing. And I think Daniel Radcliffe said something along the same sentiment. So
you can tell just from their performances that both of these people
they fully commit.
This was not a paycheck.
No. They are
No chance.
in it to win it sort of thing. It's, I don't know. They, like, some people are in it, but you can still see them sort of phoning it in. But you can almost tell from their performances, like, however many days this took to shoot.
22.
Okay. But, like, they would have been
it's
there
just the
for,
two of
like,
them.
44 days, you know? Like, I don't know. Yeah.
Another thing that I thought was interesting is just the fact that like how Beach Boy-esque the music is in this, and then Paul Dano was just in that Love and Mercy last year, the Beach Boys movie.
I think there was even something where, like, Daniel Radcliffe's girlfriend was in that Love and Mercy, and maybe I think he was Paul Dano's, like, love interest, and I
really?
think, like, Daniel Radcliffe had Paul Dano's, like, girlfriend as a love interest in another movie, and, like, they were talking about a QA, they're like, it's very incestuous, we've all kissed at this point, because another very daring scene in this film is
Yeah, that was my next point.
they're trying to cross this, I don't even know what that is, this big sort of rusted metal
It's
pipe.
like an oil pipeline.
Yeah, like some
almost.
old oil pipeline or
Right,
something.
and it's like a bridge, almost, it serves as a bridge in their journey, and it's several, I guess, 100 feet in the air, I would say, above like a river. And eventually they do fall in, and it's during a point of Daniel Radcliffe being like, are you lying to me, kind of, or like, what is this emotion that I'm feeling, like, are you lying to me? And they do fall in, and I don't know what exactly leads to this,
What?
to them kissing.
Oh.
They're being drawn down. There's stuff tied to them because they basically have all their belongings
Right.
tied to them. So they're basically being drawn to the bottom of the river, and the assumption is that they're going to drown.
And Daniel Radcliffe can't move his limbs, really.
Yeah,
So
but in
he's just
another purpose
sinking.
of this corpse, he has air inside his lungs. So
Yeah.
Paul Dano is basically able to use him like a scuba mask,
Yup.
but he has to kiss him.
Right,
with
yeah.
it. It's great because it's also led up to by that really great drunk scene before that, where
Yes.
again there's this whole development of Paul Dano's character kind of teaching Daniel Radcliffe's character about what it is to be alive.
Right.
And a lot of this has had to do with Paul Dano's character had this weird infatuation with this girl that he would see on a bus. So he's kind of teaching through the vessel of seeing a girl on a bus, Daniel Radcliffe's character, how to flirt with this girl, Sarah, that's been on. It's a whole other storyline where there's a phone that was supposedly found on Daniel Radcliffe's character, had a picture, and Hank, Paul Dano's character, has been telling Manny that it was his girlfriend and that they're trying to help him remember her.
I actually didn't follow that storyline.
I think it's intentionally vague.
Right, yeah, and I didn't until like a few scenes in, not when he found out, but I was like, oh, he's not teaching him like this, but he's pretending that it's his past life, kind of.
Right. Well, but he does.
But yeah, I do think it is intentionally vague.
I do think he does actually. I mean, this will be more important later, but I think he does actually find the phone on Daniel Radcliffe's body.
I don't think so.
I thought he had
It's
it.
Is there a
his
scene-
phone.
He says that, but is there any scene of it before that?
Yes, because he has it in a Ziploc bag in his pocket.
Yeah, I thought he takes it out of his pocket.
He
to
does
check for
to
things.
check that he keeps. Because why would it be on Daniel Radcliffe's person if it's the girl that he's stalking?
I mean, we'll get into that later.
Right,
I
yeah.
have theories about
It's his phone.
Okay.
Just because I remember being like, where did he get that Ziploc bag? How did he have the forethought to, if he was on a boat, maybe then he'd have that Ziploc bag? And it was it was in his pocket. But
Okay.
yeah. But
But yeah, and through him trying to teach Manny about, love and life and all that, they end up really like hitting a breakthrough where there's this whole scene where they find a bottle of vodka that had washed up, and they're drinking that, and they're
again, garbage.
and they're creating this whole beautiful scene. They like had finally like mastered like fire and stuff like that, so they've got all these nice like lights around. It's almost like an island like party they've got going on with all these fake paper trash guests at the and he's literally moving like Manny's arms with like pulley systems that he's like set up, and then at the end of that night, Manny has been forced to sit because he has to move him like outside, and they're kind of like having this weird drunk moment where they like almost like kiss. Like he kind of like leans in because
Right.
Paul Dano's character is like wearing like not makeup, but like a costume to appear like the girl that Manny has an interest in, to try and like teach him about it. So he's kind of like playing two characters at the same time, and he leans in as the girl and then is like, oh, I'm really drunk, and like falls down. And it's a weird moment where like you kind of feel like, oh, I think Paul Dano's character wanted to kiss him there.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Right.
Kind of
Yeah.
like resisted and pulled back because of what like might be thought there.
And another,
Which I thought was a great
yeah,
scene because
it
it's
is.
just got such great like subdued like homosexuality like tones to it, which a lot of the movie is about, is like subduing things, like
It
subduing
is.
your farts,
Well,
subduing
yeah,
your feelings.
all the shock stuff in the movie is just symbolic for all the stuff that you have to suppress in daily society.
yeah.
It is. It's
And then
it
even
very,
right after that, they have I don't know if it's I think that might actually be after. Yeah, so after that is the bridge scene,
Yep.
which you were talking about, where yes, he ends up using Manny basically like a scuba mask, and obviously that involves mouth on mouth action in that scene.
But it's very emotional, and it's shot like a kiss scene, basically.
Yeah, and it's a lot of build up leading up to that, and then even the scene after that, they're both laying kind of fireside right before the bear scene. And they're talking about like, do we have to go home? Like, we could just like have a life out
Stay
here,
out
like
here,
just
right?
the two of us. Like, I did kind of like a lot of that build up of that storyline there. That
It was, and it was literally. I don't even know where to start with that. It goes from sort of this buddy movie to this love story. In that, like, much like farting, you shouldn't be like ashamed of love. And like when you overcome that shame and become like this purest version of yourself without like the societal expectations, which plays like a huge role in this movie, you can do anything. Like you can make it back, kind of. And in that sense, however far out and surreal this film might seem, it's just some of the most honest filmmaking you'll see ever. Like the most honest filmmaking I've seen ever. And I think that, again, like we just did the fucking Independence Day resurgence, you were talking about like that forced like gay relationship where like this is just, it's so open and it's so clean, and it's like even like it starts with like why do you like when they're in the cave, when Daniel Radcliffe first starts talking and he says like, don't talk like that, speak more clearly, you sound like a retard. And he goes like, what? He's like, did you call me a retard? And he's like, oh my god, I sound like my dad, like I'm sorry about
and
that.
then later his dad, when you do meet his dad, uses that language as
Right.
well.
And it's about this sort of like another thing that resonates with me, not that I have like a bad relationship with my dad or anything, but I feel like just the world in general is a very sort of like forced, like
things this way,
like
yes.
sort of like very like, this is how masculinity is kind of thing. And like, again, when he has to role play to engage Daniel Radcliffe's character, Daniel Radcliffe is begging him to sort of like put on this clothing to look like the girl on his phone, and he says, like, if you knew what people would say about me if they saw me in this clothing, if they saw me like this, if you
And
only
again,
knew.
It's kind of like comedic relief. Like there's the, when he does come out in the clothing and Daniel Radcliffe's like, you're beautiful.
Yeah.
And he says, and
he kind of laughs and he's like, really? Like, you think so?
think
And like,
so?
it's
Yeah,
funny in the moment, but like there's a deeper thing going on there where it's like a realization of, again, he's trying to pull out these things from himself that he's been subduing. And Manny is kind of the vessel for that, because Manny, he's someone who doesn't have society's pressures on him. He has no idea what society is. He hasn't been molded by them. He's completely just molded by Hank's subconscious. So Hank, is able to get this completely, everything Manny says is pure and honest. He can't like lie to Hank. He doesn't even know that that's a thing yet. So when he says he's beautiful, Manny's like, or Hank is like, really? Like,
that's the highest compliment.
Yeah.
It's the truest self.
Yeah.
Right.
I thought that was a great scene right there.
But let's talk about,
I think every scene's a great scene in this movie.
Let's take a deviation from the more message and sort of plot driven stuff, and let's talk about the sort of behind the scenes and sort of the sort of special effects and the more practical effects that take place in this film. Just because I'm very curious about what Jordan thinks about that. To kick it off. From what I understand, they had at least 4 Daniel Radcliffe dummies. A lot of effects, including the water sort of like pouring out of his mouth, and the bubbles that were launching out of his butt were completely practical. Nothing was done in special effects, and it was just.
Is it just an angle of a
It was
pretty much. Or?
It was very complicated. They would have Q&As at like Sundance, and the two directors, the Daniels, would be like, all right, like let's get like our actors up here, and it'd be like Paul Dano, Daniel Radcliffe, and what's her name, Ramona Flowers,
Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Yeah, and then they'd be like, and like more importantly, let's get our crew up here, and it was just like a team of like 20 people who were all like the heads of their own like kind of like department sort of, and it was very I don't know, and they got a lot of questions too, and I think they said like the hardest thing, I mean, aside from like those some guy literally, I think he had worked with them before, like Jordan was saying with the music videos, like to get like that sort of like mouth thing, like that was hard in the butt. And like these were just machines that they built to make them look like kind of like water is spraying out or whatever. But another thing they said was, they're like, we're fucking filming in the jungle. Like it was really hard to find electricity. It was just like an indie film. It was
filming
really
in the middle of the woods in California. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I was curious what you thought of Jordan. Besides like that one thing that I said before, another thing that bothered me was sometimes how stop motion-y something would look like when maybe they were like launching like a grappling hook like out of like Daniel Radcliffe's like face or something. It kind of looked like choppy at some point.
It probably had to do with creative cutting.
Okay.
That's my guess.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that stuff wasn't practical though, was it? Or
No, of course not.
because I think that's what it was for me, was that you could tell, the water that's not special effects water coming out of his mouth, and like a lot of it looked like they were actually riding on the ocean for like the scenes like that. Like,
definitely right, yeah.
But then when you would have the grappling hook coming out of his mouth, or like him obviously like flying through the air when he's like farting over like a flame or stuff like that,
right?
That
yeah,
you could tell was special effects.
Oh, definitely, right.
Well, I'm sure that
it has to be. There's no
the
way.
fire was special effects, but there was a lot of wire rigging in this movie. A lot. I was reading a bit about it.
What do you mean wire rigging?
Like, so the scene when they fall out of like the metal thing and they come out of the water, right? They literally just had like wires fling them out of the water.
Okay,
when they fall,
the bridge, yeah,
yeah,
and then
bridge.
they're kissing and then they launch out, right?
A lot of those scenes were wire rigging. I'm pretty sure the scene that you're talking about when he has to flip over the fire to like scare the bear, I'm pretty sure that was wire rigging. The fire was probably CGI,
right?
But him flipping, I'm sure it was just like a contraption that like flung him.
Right. Regardless, in the end, it has the same looking effect as like the grappling hook scenes, and I mean that's most of the examples I can think of are the few times they shoot the grappling hook out of his mouth. But,
right. So some are just a little choppy, and it was only at the beginning, and I was kind of like, it kind of took me out for a split second. Then again, there were things in Ex Machina that took me out of it for a split second, like the sort of like fast forwarded like footage of her like banging on like the wall or whatever.
Yeah.
And I would kind of be like, okay, like kind of like thing, but
I mean, I didn't get that at all. Nothing took me out of this movie.
yeah,
Actually, I was in the theater alone, and the dude with the wand sitting right behind me, like moving it, took me out of this movie.
the
But
one.
The guy who stands there and makes sure no one's doing anything inappropriate.
right.
Yeah, he took me out of the movie. Nothing about the movie took me out of the movie.
As long as we're talking about theater experiences, I had the most diverse. I'm trying to think of when I saw this. Was this yesterday, which was a Friday, around 6 p.m. It was there was a lot of people there. There was like older couples, but there was like this younger couple behind me, and they wouldn't fucking shut up. But not even that, and I'm very like ADD and kind of like more drawn into, and I even gave them dirty looks and everything. That did not stop this film from being like a incredible sort of force.
Yeah, I'm glad I was literally in the theater.
I would
myself.
love. This is the one film that I'd love to be like by myself in.
Literally, I'm the only person in the theater. That's the only time this ever happened.
Because a lot of people, and let's get into fucking how the critics thought, or like why you would think this has a lower score than The Shallows. because like a lot of like older couples in here felt so awkward that they had to like laugh at these very like kind of like farts, I guess, like kind of like
where like you're laughing at it at first, but I mean there are some lines in dialogue that end up being funny later, more because they're really well acted in the delivery. But like the stuff that you think you would be laughing at, you're not laughing at towards the end of the movie. Like,
no, yeah,
you're kind of like, you're not numb, but you're accustomed to like the ridiculousness
this
of the
world
movie.
that they live in,
And
right?
You're just kind of like, all right, take me wherever you're willing to take me, Daniels. And I can see that being that it could not be a more non-traditional movie.
It is, because it's
The only thing that's traditional really is the traditional story arc of a character that wants something and essentially finds it in the end.
And I think that's what bothered me about like the older sort of men in the audience sort of like laughing about fart jokes near the end, because it's kind of like this, you're not understanding the purpose of this film. This film is a fart joke that explores morality and love and societal expectations in a way that doesn't have to be this incredibly serious, like labeled as a drama movie. It's labeled as an action adventure movie from what Google.com/movies tells me. You know, like I think it could be a comedy. I think it could be a drama. I think Action Adventures that's a fine title as well.
I mean, I like the musical comedy drama. I think is the best.
Yeah, no, but that is when you said
but
that sounds
falls short in a way, like it's because there's a lot of other musical comedy dramas that don't really compare to this in any way.
No. Oh my gosh. There's just so many things. I mean, there's so many metaphors of just like Manny helps both physically and mentally and emotionally even sort of like break down walls. And again, that's like sort of the core of like what it is to be in an honest relationship. Like, you know, he's like he thinks he's in love with this girl on the bus, but it's really this Manny character that's like, he's really exploring these feelings with.
I don't know if we want to start moving towards the ending of the movie, because I think there's a lot of important stuff that ends up happening towards the end of the movie. But after this scene that we talked about before, where they kind of kiss underneath the water to help Hank survive, they end up crawling to land. There's a weird sequence where they're hanging out by a fire and a bear shows up. Right. I know Jordan had an interesting note about that he was telling us about before the podcast.
Well, yeah, I read that the bear that they found online was not the bear that they got, and it caused a few issues
they
for
got
shooting.
The wrong bear.
And that bear also loved ice cream sandwiches. They used to feed it ice cream sandwiches.
I was listening to a Q&A about this, and somebody asked, which I think is a pretty bold question, and maybe Mike Birbiglia would have made fun of them about it, but
tune into our review of Don't Think Twice, where Mike Birbiglia makes fun of Joseph Lomas
for asking a perfectly good question during a Q&A.
I got to hear that.
Yeah, I have it on my phone. I can show you. But what I think he asked a pretty good question. He says, like, you know, I know this is an independently financed film. Is there anything that you guys wish you could have done that you didn't do? And he said, yeah, like this definitely, like animal wise, yes. We wanted to have them kill a bunch of more like different animals sort of. But, you know, we had just 3 animals that I think they killed or whatever when they're like scavenging for food.
Like a raccoon, bird, and rabbit or something like that.
Right, yeah. And I think they wanted to have like more like deer or something. And then also for the bear scene, they wanted it to be a pack of wolves or something. And they were like, that is way out of our price range. Yeah. So they got a bear. But yeah, you can continue with the plot.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
Well,
again, this is where like the film like really takes off. There's just so much stuff going on at once. But they're being attacked by the bear. I think he bites Hank's leg. You guys got out of here. There's so much going on in this scene.
There is they
end up in the air at some point.
Yes,
I'm literally trying. There's so much that happens in this movie, and there is such a touching scene where they've literally reached the end of their journey. Paul Dano goes to go take a pee, and he's peeing, and then all of a sudden there's a light that flashes by,
Yeah.
and
Right,
he's on the side of a highway in California, and he's like, holy shit. And then he comes out to Manny, and he says, listen, I haven't been completely truthful with you about, he says, that girl that I've been showing you, that's a picture from my phone. It's not from your phone. It's a girl, and I've been reenacting all these scenes that only I have experienced, and you haven't experienced these kind of things. And then I don't know exactly how they get up into the tree.
They light one of his farts on fire.
But is it a reaction from the bear that they see, or?
I think so. I think it was like, so he comes back from the seeing the car, and he's like, Manny, I have to tell you something. And then Manny's like, I have to tell you something too. And Hank starts to explain it, and Manny's like, Hank, here's a growl. Manny's like, that's what I wanted to tell you.
Large raccoon over there. Calls it a raccoon.
Yep.
I forgot about that. Yeah,
That was actually one of the funniest moments of the movie, just the fact that he called it a raccoon.
But yeah, I think he gets him. Daniel Radcliffe's character gets them into safety. I can imagine
Somehow, with the power of his farts and fire,
launches them up
He
into
launches
a tree.
up into a tree.
and they kind of end up. Yeah, they're in a tree, and he kind of realizes, or Manny has the power to affect Hank's mind,
Right.
somehow, and he's like forcing Hank to have these like visions. And there was a few flashes in there where it was almost like a weird like Fight Club moment where like there was flashbacks of what they had experienced, but it was Hank in both characters.
Right.
And that started to fuel my theory for what the end might be. But then there's also a few moments later on where they kind of just completely dash that to bits. They're very good at like throwing you for a loop.
And
the entire movie.
he's starting to essentially feel a new emotion for the first time, and I can't put my finger on what exactly it is when he's in the tree and he's having
Betrayal. And
Oh, okay,
sadness
right, yeah,
and,
okay, yeah. He
'cause,
starts.
You made me like fall in love with like a woman that like was in love with you the entire time, and that didn't exist. Like,
and
pretty
he
much, like,
starts to say, "I wish I was dead again."
Yep.
Which is
And
wild.
every time
which
he says
is
that,
which
he
is fucking
loses his grip on the tree.
right.
Yeah.
Which is fucking wild, because this film, at its core, is about like a suicidal man that has to convince a dead body that life is worth living, and like that's such a wild plot. And it's like now the dead body like understands where Hank was like in the first moments of meeting him, and he's trying to hang himself on a desert island.
Jordan brought up a good point too, is that every time he starts like coming closer to that realization of I want to die, I wish I was dead, Hank starts losing his grip
And
on
he
the
comes
tree.
to that realization too. Hank's
Yeah.
like, if maybe I should just die here.
Yeah.
And then pretty much lets go.
Exactly. And I think when he's on the ground, the bear fucking slashes his leg open, and I was pretty convinced that he was going to die there. And at some point he accepts death.
Yep.
And he's
He's
very
kind of laughing about it.
he's very comfortable about it.
Doesn't he start humming that same song again?
He might be, yeah.
It's a very different. It's like a contrast from him trying to hang himself in the beginning and this scene. They're very, very different emotions, kind of. He's not sad, and he's experienced everything, and it's kind of like his when he's saying, like, he's talking to Daniel Radcliffe, and he says, you know, like, when I pictured when I would die, like, I would have these flashbacks about, like, maybe, me having a good time at a party, or me having these great relationships, or maybe me even like being with this like girl or something. And and he doesn't have any of those, he can't flash back to that before he dies.
Yeah.
And now he's about to die, and he has sort of flashed back to all of these times that he's had with the Daniel Radcliffe
Manny,
corpse.
yeah. I'm trying to. There's something where Manny basically starts gaining more ability to move,
Right.
and is able to kind of fart, I think, again, and scare the bear off or something. Or
Right. He's able to
basically-
fall out of the tree and fart. Yeah.
Yeah, long story short, he basically saves Hank, and there's kind of a role reversal where Manny has gained enough ability to move, and Hank has been so immobilized that Manny ends up being the one that's carrying Hank to
On his back.
Sarah's house at the end. Sarah's the girl on the phone.
Yes.
And they kind of collapse onto her front yard. And this is where the movie really starts like going like 0 to 100 real quick.
Yeah.
Sarah comes out.
Well, Hank is, yeah, I mean, just this at the scene, Hank is mortified that Manny would bring him here.
Yeah.
He says, like, no, like,
Yeah.
I'm just stalking this girl. This is not like a sort of like, again, fairy tale sort of true love without societal like, expectations or whatever.
Yeah, and Sarah's daughter comes out and she's like talking to them, and then Sarah comes out and she's obviously like scared for her daughter. She calls the police. She eventually realizes that I think she ends up asking them something like about, you know, do you need help? And Hank like actually like, you know, nods like yes, like we need help. He's speechless the entire time.
Yep.
Like he can't talk. And then there's a really funny scene there where he's like, you know, that wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
We're not so bad at this. Though he literally said nothing the entire time.
And I think any other sort of filmmaker would kind of almost end on this scene where she would kind of like come out here and she'd be like, are you okay? And Hank's character would be like, I think I've had a really like long day. And she'd be like, well, I can make us coffee or something. And then she'd invite him in.
Yeah.
And it would kind of like start this relationship. But what takes place after this is very different from that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then, as you can imagine, she calls the cops. The cops arrive, and Hank's dad is called, and Manny ends up in a body bag. And at this
Yeah,
point,
because Manny's still a corpse.
yeah, he's an actual corpse, and he's not moving around at all. But then this is where things get really, really
Yep.
weird. And Hank's dad comes over to identify the body, which is Manny.
Right.
And he doesn't pay any attention to Hank. He doesn't look at Hank. But then later on, when Hank ends up going back for Manny's body, he comes over to Hank and talks to him like he's Hank, like his son. So
Right.
you're not sure whose dad he actually is. And he's yelling at Hank for like embarrassing him. And, you know, how could you do this to us? Blah, blah, blah. And then Hank basically ends up stealing Manny's body and running away into the woods. And you find out that Sarah's house was very close to where the hideout was. And then he wasn't actually on an island the entire time. He was pretty much just on the beach in California, not very far from where he was living before.
Right.
Forgetting one important part of this whole thing is how the cops find the picture on the phone, which start the whole
Yes.
start the whole questioning of his
Right.
moral character,
Yeah. And
which goes against everything that the film's about. You know, with all the farting and all of that, it's like, you know, be open, be all of this, tell everyone everything, don't hide anything. But then once they get back to reality, everyone there questions them. It's like, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
You shouldn't be doing this.
yeah. So, and then to jump sort of to the very end, they basically make it to the beach, and there's this weird scene where they're all watching as Hank or Manny basically farts his way out into the ocean.
Right.
and
Hank
gets arrested.
Hank has really put himself forth to bring Manny to the beach.
There's even a little speech at the end where he's like holding like Manny's corpse and says something about, you know, this is my friend and he saved me and he's very special and blah blah blah.
I think the breaking point too is when the police are there and they're doing all the paperwork and somebody says, so what happens to this guy? And they're talking about Manny. And he says, oh, you know, we probably take him to the morgue. Nobody identifies him for 10 to 15 days. And then we just hold a funeral where no one shows up and we bury him and it's like nothing kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that fucking breaks something in Hank. And yeah, he takes his stretcher, slides down a hill and into the river, and that leads him out to a California
Slightly
beach.
behind that, we're also a very important part why Manny stops talking again.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Which is because the way Sarah looks at him as like a freak and everything that they talk about, she gets disgusted with. So Manny actually second guessing everything that he said about why should I hide my farts? Why should I
All of a
hide
sudden,
all of this
he
stuff?
understands.
He
yeah.
starts to realize why Hank felt like it and what society does to people. So Manny goes back to not talking and being just a dead corpse.
Another thing I took from like the cops talking like that though is that's when it started to sound like an actual like satire or something like that. Like that doesn't sound like something that like an actual cop or like emergency responder would say. Like, it was very self-aware and like,
Right.
oh, they're just gonna have a funeral and no one's gonna show up and nobody cares, blah blah blah. It sounded more like something that was coming from
Hank's head.
So that's
Yeah.
where I started to be like, all right, maybe this is when he's actually in his head, because like I said before, they're very realistic in their approach to what would you do if like a farting corpse like showed up and you thought you might be hallucinating and stuff like that. And again, this is also the first time we're seeing other characters, but even his interactions with the Sarah character and her daughter are sort of real up to that point, but that's where it starts feeling like it might be in his head more at that point. But I'm curious to hear, because I have my own theory about what happens at the end. I'm curious if you guys have a theory about what it's all supposed to mean, or if you think it's literally just supposed to be surrealist and absurdist and just take it as it is on surface
You mean
value.
like the whole movie in itself, or like the Manny character?
Like, why do you think we're watching what we're watching? Do you think it like I was trying to set up in the beginning, like, you know, is he dead the entire time, or is he just hallucinating from exhaustion, or what? I mean, what is it all?
No, I think the
supposed to-
whole thing is kind of abstract and all of it's real.
Okay.
I mean, that's what I think, especially the way that the father nods to his son at the end, and the
Yeah,
way
let's
everyone
talk-
sees Manny, fart off into the distance.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's an hallucination because everyone witnesses it. They even film it.
Uh-huh.
So I don't really think that it's a hallucination. The only other possible one that I could think of is he's been dead the whole time. He hung himself on
Which
the
is a
island.
possibility they set up for
Yeah.
that in the
Which-
beginning.
yeah,
I don't
that's
think
the
that's
other
it, but-
one.
which we can talk
But I
about.
don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm drunk and I don't know whether we talked about the very end or not. But yeah, what happens is Hank successfully gets Manny to the beach and puts him, like, essentially how he finds him in the beginning of the film. They arrest Hank, and then Manny starts farting like up a storm, like he did in the beginning, and nobody stops really Hank from like going out and kind of like pushing him into like the waves, where he takes off like a jet ski like he did before. And again, everybody's in complete shock. I mean, there's a news cameraman, there's police. The news cameraman is funny. He's like, "What the fuck?" Like he's
watching
I
the
recognize
movie.
him from several of their music video. He's just like, you can tell with like his beard and his tattoos. He's just like kind of one of their friends or whatever. And again, Mary Elizabeth Winstead is kind of like,
That's disgusting.
like yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
what is going on? And again, the dad sort of nods in like appreciation of like, you did what you had to do, kind of thing. And he has acceptance
It's like the
from
first
his
like
dad.
proud moment of his son.
Right, yeah. And so I guess that's what we're discussing or debating.
Or just where it lines up, because I with the thing.
What did you think, Mike?
Well, with the stuff that they laid out throughout the film, I kept, and from what I had heard before even seeing the movie, because people, I remember reading reviews,
Okay.
and they didn't spoil the movie, but they were like, there's a reason for the farting in the end, and I thought they were trying to hint that, like, maybe he's been dead the entire time, or it's supposed to have taken place in his head the entire time, and they certainly hinted at that enough. I have a theory. This is something I had to concoct, like, after coming out of the movie. I had to think about it a lot, because I remember coming out of the movie and being like, that didn't go where I thought it was going to go. There was a lot of times when it started wrapping up towards the end where I was looking for them to put like a neat sort of bow on it, or at least more of a hint to be like, this is what we meant by this the entire time.
Right.
And I do like the fact that they kind of kept it up to interpretation, and also like any theory you can throw out there, there's some other wrench somewhere else in the movie
Right,
that's going to
yeah.
completely destroy your theory. But my theory, he's obviously not on an island. He clearly just ran away from home. There's a line about that somewhere else later where he talks about running away from home. He says it was on a boat, but I don't think he ever even got on a boat or crashed. There's no shipwreck anywhere.
Yeah, that
or
was the
anything.
thought that I was thinking about.
I think he literally just built a hideout in the woods behind Sarah's house and tried to run away and live by himself. He started to hallucinate because he couldn't feed himself. And I don't think Manny the corpse is a real thing. I think Manny is a manifestation of the parts of himself that he subdues, right down to the fact that he farts, which is something that we subdue in public, masturbation, which is something that he as a character is not able to do, and Manny is obviously very interested in it. In fact, he gets boners, he's very curious about it, he's always asking about it. His expression of love for Sarah, his kind of being like an inner child Manny is, like, he's just pure and he tells the truth and he's got this, wonder for everything. and he's almost like a vision of success too. Like he's in a well-dressed suit, whereas like Hank is kind of like a failed person, hasn't really made something of himself.
It's like
His
a flannel
yeah, his
on.
father's obviously disappointed in him, so that's like another manifestation of where he would want to be. And he's also dead because Hank wants to die in the end, and that's kind of like something that he is not even able to achieve. So I felt like he was all like a manifestation of that stuff, and Hank maybe either jumped or tried to hang himself from that weird bridge scene, because if you notice when they fall down, he's actually hanging by his neck from something,
Right.
but he's not like choking. He's just kind of there like hanging, like, and it's something where he probably would have died if it was like a real like scenario, but he doesn't die. And then there's also the scene where the cops are talking about Manny's corpse.
Right.
I think they're the same person. I don't think there's an actual corpse. I think it's just his. And again, they had the Fight Club moment before where they were showing two Hanks in the same scene, but the cops were saying that, you know, there's a lot of jumpers from that bridge. Manny was probably, this corpse was probably just a jumper from there. So I think it might have been a scene where he actually tried to hang himself or jumped or tried to die there, and he does actually crawl to Sarah's house, but then I think he dies there.
Right.
And I think why Manny kind of like sort of stops talking at the end is because, you know, Hank crawls to Sarah's house, and she kind of like looks at him like a freak, like Manny says, and that's where he does give in to being this subdued version of himself, and then that's where he actually dies of his physical injuries. And I think from that point on, the rest of the movie is actually in his head,
Right.
like completely in his head, like him being dead, like the last things he sees before he dies. And that's him like playing out this weird, wild fantasy where his father approves of this weird homosexual relationship he has with like a dead corpse in his mind and all that stuff. Again, that's out there. I had to concoct that after the fact,
Yeah.
and then probably a lot of
it
other
all makes
wrenches you can
sense,
throw
yeah.
in there from the rest of the movie. But that's the closest I can come to something that makes sense from the movie. And I don't even know if they intended that.
You're right.
But I think they just made a movie that throws enough puzzle pieces out there and is like, make a picture out of this if you can.
I can see a few things that can argue for and against it. One, for it, which the only weird in a movie that really has no continuity at all, in a way, kind of continuity. The only continuity issue I could think of is it took them so long to get from the shore to where they made camp to that bridge to Sarah's house, but when they chase him back, they get there like right away.
Yeah.
They pass all that stuff like instantly. But while they spent like God knows days, weeks out in the woods, which seemed must have been like half a mile.
Yeah,
I
think it's meant to be very close. And again, you start out the movie thinking like we're on a desert island,
Right.
And then I was shocked just the moment we saw Sarah's house. Like, where would they were supposed to be in an island? They don't live on an island. So that was like the first like clue that was like, oh, like I don't think it's supposed to be what we thought it was for the first half of the movie. And then again, I think that's very intentional. The fact that it only takes
I thought
30
so,
seconds to get back to like the beach, and the way that like they're all looking at the stuff, like, because they're floating down the river, but the people are chasing them on foot, and they're able to look at that stuff along the way, like very soon after.
Yeah, they stop.
The way that they look at it is
like stop. You're going to see everything we've done, kind of thing.
And the very intentional showing, like the cops finding the picture on the phone, like, you know, do you know this man? Like, I think it's all very intentional that he was obviously stalking her and just made camp outside of her house. At least. But.
I really don't have a theory when I came out of that movie. I mean, I like that the Daniels sort of had this unapologetic sort of like.
I do want to preface it that I don't think you need to have a theory.
Yeah,
in terms of, that's the way my mind works. Right, I wanted to make sense of it.
You should, and you should.
But you can also approach it completely as just a surrealist and absurdist film where, regardless of whether these characters are real or not, or it's in their head or not, or they're dead or not, there's a real relationship between Manny, whether he's real or not, and Hank, and it's beautiful.
Yeah,
Right,
I mean that's
I
mostly mine. It's, I mean, I think it's all real because I think it's all just like a giant like symbolic film about, you know, society. I don't think their intention was to make like an Inception ending where you have to be like,
Right.
is he dreaming? Is he not? I think
No,
that,
and I'm sure if you watch it again, there's probably a few wrenches you can throw in my theory, because I think that's their intention. The entire movie is to just throw shit out there. Like, you know, there's again, there's the fact that he could have been dead from the very beginning.
Yeah.
That's what I took from the entire movie, especially seeing that as the opening scene and coming into it thinking that there was going to be something like that. I was like, I don't know if it's going to be that, and I think they're going to be throwing us for a loop the entire movie.
And I think Hank too. I mean, to throw a few wrenches, I think Hank, when he's explaining everything to Manny, he says like he's trying to explain everything to Manny, and he says yes, like, and I was so alone that I thought I had to run away from this, and he explains the boat trip kind of, and I think that's something. But again, I really don't have a theory, and again, like I said, they're sort of unapologetically like kind of just throwing this out there and to draw your own conclusion.
Yeah, like I think if they put a gun to their head, I don't think they would be like, oh well, this is actually what we meant by this.
Right. And I think there's like this sort of, I don't know, there's a bunch of metaphors with like the whole story that goes along with it. It's sort of like you're a character at your lowest low. Hank runs away from this life where nobody cares about him, essentially, to the point where he doesn't even tell anybody he's leaving.
Yeah.
And he gets into this shipwreck, and he's stranded on a desert island. And in a weird way, he's like lucky because everyone else on the boat is like presumably dead, and he's alive, but he's like more lonelier or more isolated than ever on this like deserted island. Which again does look like fictitious. Like even like I don't know where they shot that or if that was like real. It looks fictitious, like desert island. It looks like you could walk across it in like 50 paces, kind of.
The beach
you know?
intentionally looks desert island, but when you look at when they're like walking through the forest, because I even thought this before I came to this theory.
Well, I mean,
it does not look like the jungle or like tropical forest. It looks just like a regular California forest.
Well, just like the. Well, I meant like the
and
first.
The fact that there's like
the first,
bear and
the first
stuff,
island
like,
that
raccoons and like.
The first island that they're on before he fart jet skis across the ocean, which is another thing to consider. Like, was he ever on a desert island?
Wait, did they go to another island?
No, he's just talking about the opening scene.
The opening scene, he's on an island where he tries to hang himself, and then Daniel Radcliffe.
Back to the island, do they not though? Because he goes to the cave. Well, it's a separate cave.
It's a different cave.
Different cave.
He goes. He's able to go from a deserted island. In the beginning scene, they have an establishing shot where the island is like this big, like kind of thing. And he's just by himself on a desert island by himself. Again, you can walk across it in like 40 paces both ways. And then he gets on Daniel Radcliffe and he goes to a whole new land, which is the United States. He's on an island and jet skis to another island. I mean, jet skis to the United States from this desert island.
I guess because it was the credit sequence, I wasn't thinking like, oh, they're actually going somewhere. I was just like, oh, he's just learning how to jet ski.
Oh, no, no. He's on a desert island, and I think his newfound hope is that they've gone from this very small, isolated space to, oh my God, human contact. There's garbage. I've just woken up on a beach with a Cheetos bag. Like, you know, like, life is near, kind of, where he was on the isolated island and he says this is all hopeless, you know, kind of thing. But yeah,
so again, yeah, it's another wrench that you can throw into any of these theories,
right? Yeah, but he's there and he's on that, I don't know, it's just ironic that he's on that desert island and, you know, he's, you know, more lonelier than ever when he's trying to escape this isolation and he wants to hang himself, even though everybody else on the boat died, presumably, yeah.
I don't think he really wanted necessarily to hang himself. If you go by the garbage, when he says help.
Oh no, definitely, yeah.
I think he's just kind of
that's
like
why
desperate to.
Again, that's another clue that he's on a desert island. Is he's sending out all these like, please, somebody help me. Like, I'm on a desert island. Somebody come rescue me.
I believed he thought he was on a desert island.
Oh, okay, right.
And I'd have to go back and watch and see that actual establishing shot for myself. He may have been on a desert island, but again, that part could have been in his mind as well because we.
Oh, definitely, right, yeah. And I
would still argue for the fact that he probably was closer to home than he thought, because again, there was no shipwreck on the first one. There wasn't really any other like hints to that. Did you remember dialogue of him talking about the escape attempt at all? I can't remember.
There is
what
talk
do you mean
about
escape
him
attempt?
going out on the boat because he wanted to run away from everything.
Yeah, he said. Yeah, please explain what you meant. Escape attempt.
Wait, what?
Oh no, what did you mean by escape attempt?
Well, I'm trying to ask. I couldn't remember the specific dialogue where he was talking about the boat scene.
Oh, a boat. He
But
said.
I didn't think there was a lot of it. And
No, there's like maybe 2 lines.
The opening scene has the garbage water that says something something something. I'm so lonely. There was a shipwreck. Please rescue me. And then when he's talking with Daniel Radcliffe, when they're in the cave after they get to California, he says, like, this is all this stuff. This is humanity. I can't believe I tried to escape this. I got on a boat. I didn't tell anybody. My dad wouldn't care. And I think that's another very important part that I'd like to talk about is the whole the automated emails, which is the most arguably depressing part of this movie.
Yep.
And also when he finds the highway and he goes out there and he finally gets the signal on his cell phone for the first time, and he scrolls through his emails, and he's getting emails every day, but it's all automated. It's nobody personal. It's bills, and it's like this automated birthday response from his dad.
And that's the one he
that
opens
taught.
up.
even after his dad probably assumes he's dead. Like,
Right. It's like it's nobody sort of cares really. It's all, we live in an automated world kind of where nobody actually, writes letters to each other anymore. It's just, it all just comes by some sort of dumb fucking JavaScript, But yeah, if you guys want to get into fingers, I'd be down for some fingers.
Right, for some fingers.
Gonna get that. Fingers.
I don't really have too much more to say.
Right.
Just the one word I can describe this with is just beautiful. The cinematography is beautiful throughout. It's a visually stunning movie. The messages that are hidden in this movie, not even hidden, but just that come across in this movie are beautiful. And above all, the fucking soundtrack is beautiful. It's inspiring all the time, even when it's like funny because it's just a cappella versions of the Jurassic Park soundtrack, like it ends up sounding like weird, like those YouTube like a cappella videos that people will make with like 4 different versions of themselves singing a song. They're singing like the Cotton Eye Joe, where did you come from, where did you go at one point. It's just beautiful all the way through. I think I'll give it 4.5 fingers out of 5.
Right.
And I think that half finger that I'm subtracting is just for the type of person that I am, where I would have liked it to come to a more concrete, not even concrete in terms of, but just a little bit neater at the end. It started to get a little bit like jumbly, even if it was still being beautiful and inspiring. It wasn't on paper as concrete as I would have liked it to be. Maybe something more full circle I would have liked. But other than that, I really can't think of too many criticisms. And even in spite of that, it's just beautiful all the way through. So 4.5 fingers out of 5.
See, here's the other thing. I'll go next. The other thing I literally kept forgetting to say, I kept trying to write it down, but then I would forget, is maybe I thought this had maybe the best ending that I've ever, or maybe that I've just seen this year. There's been a lot of good endings in films, just universally, but I think this might be the best ending that we'll see this year. There's something about that kind of like
the witch ending though.
No, that is true. That is true. That was a great ending. But
it's
again,
neater, and if you're looking at this in terms like you did, and I can see why you would enjoy this more if you weren't looking for it to be like, well, why did this happen? And if you just accept it on surface level as surrealist and absurdist, then yes, within the realms of that, it's a beautiful, perfect ending.
Right. And I mean, like, this is why, like while I preface this whole thing with I'm this like sad white young male like apologist sort of like person, is that like it resonated so much with me, and it's like it did more than like The Witch could ever do for me. It did more than Green Room could ever do for me. It did more than Everybody Wants Some could ever do more for me. And those are my 3 favorite films thus far before reviewing this one. And it's just like, I just love that sort of, I can see myself in it. It's super modern. I've always appreciated modern art, in modern sort of music. Just a few things. I think the body, whether it's Hank's or Manny's, I feel like I saw the human body sort of as a metaphor for the human experience during this film. I can appreciate this film like even more than it probably should be appreciated, because the Daniels sort of made something beautiful and transcendent and they really start from this fucking lowest common denominator like joke.
Yeah.
Like, it's the lowest you can go as a fart joke, and like from there they pour their souls out into this film.
Yeah.
And I don't know, and I think there's a spectrum of things that you can be ashamed of, and on one end there is that farting, and on the other end there is that love. And I think one of the saddest character traits about Hank is that he's so ashamed that he wants love, whether it's Manny or it's Sarah or whatever, and when you're the most lonely, and I feel like that's why you run away, or whatever he actually does, is you can't tell somebody that's close to you when you're really lonely, like, I just want love, because it's going to scare them away, sort of thing. And again, I think that like tagline of like maybe how they pitched it to whoever funded this, or however this was funded, I think like a suicidal man trying to convince a dead body that life is actually worth living. And I think that's like such a crazy, this might be one of the best films I've ever seen in like my life. It's just like, what a fucking message that comes across. And I think that's why I'm going to give it 5 fingers.
That was coming.
Jordan, your turn. Follow that!
I don't have to follow that. 5.
Yeah.
No, it was. It's gorgeous from a technical standpoint.
And
From a
that's
technical
I want to
standpoint,
hear like a cinematography standpoint.
It's amazing.
Too.
It was
Is
gorgeous.
that for real rating though? Because I got to calculate.
Yeah, for real, it's a 5. Yeah, from a cinematography standpoint, it was gorgeous. There was nothing bad about it. It was better than most other movies by far. Like, very few movies were even better visually looking than it. Even the small practical or special effects, like the particle effects and like the semi-dream sequences when Hank's pretending to be Sarah and all of that was just gorgeous.
Oh, yeah.
The lighting, the locations, all the technical stuff was gorgeous. And then everything that Joe said, where me being that same white person who's all, has all those like same thoughts at the same, like that time, is like this, I am this person. So it resonated with me. I left the theater. I'm like, that was me. That was me on screen.
Right.
So yeah, and I don't think a movie needs to have a complete ending or anything like that. This movie reminded me that films can just be an art form or just critique things. They don't need to be a technical beginning to end full package, which was nice, because I haven't seen too many movies like this recently where I'm like, oh shit, I can watch moving art.
Right.
Instead of like, was the script complete? Did it have complete endings? Were there any like continuity issues? This movie, none of that mattered. It told its points extremely well, from the lowest common denominator up to some high, class, high level thinking person could understand. It probably could reach a huge audience if enough people could sit through the fart jokes. If they sat down and be like, okay, I see what they're doing with this. I'm not getting offended by this.
Right.
So that's why I'm going to give it a 5. I mean, I just loved it. To me, this is up there with Ex Machina and probably one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, I think this is... I think this is better than Ex Machina, in my opinion. I think this is better than The Witch. I think this... Yeah, it's just... Movies don't speak to me that often, and this is something that spoke to me.
I think it has more of a message than those films do. Like, what is really the message of The Witch? Like,
Right. Yeah.
Dance with the Devil. But I think it ends up being in the same conversation because it's just such a singular vision, and that's why we thought like, oh, this had to be someone's first movie, and those were both their first feature-length movies, Alex Garland's and Robert Englund with The Witch, because it was just so complete and singular in its purpose, and that's why it ends up getting such a high rating for me, even for my small criticism of it, is that it's just. That's what I want from a movie. I hate when movies are all over the place. And this is all over the place in terms of what happens. But the aesthetic is all right there and singular and driven. The music is all right there and singular and driven. And the message is... It's the same message the entire time.
Yeah.
I can't, like, again, that's why Independence Day Resurgence gets a half finger from me last
right,
time.
yeah.
Is because it was just all over the fucking place and there was no consistency to it. Where this is so consistent the entire way through... Even down to the fact that he's just farting the entire fucking time.
And I'd love to know, like, what you guys thought about before you walked in here, because before you walked into the theater, because, like, I heard about this at Sundance and I was very excited because I knew them as directors, but I love Paul Dano, again, somebody whose agent is just doing work, or somebody who has incredibly good judgment for themselves, kind of. I think he gets very good roles. Not that he hasn't been in a few, like, this was a good idea, but it's kind of a stinker of a movie. But I walked in and I said, like, this will probably be a 3. You know, like, I walked in with, like, some sort of, like, this is going to be a big fart joke and it's going to have something to say, but I'm not going to.
I expected to like
version
it.
of Daredevil.
I don't know if it's just the reviews that I read, but they really set the tone that, like, yeah, get over it. There's farting in it, but it's better than that. And I think the trailer is one of the best trailers that I've seen in a very long time. Like, especially because it's carried by the amazing soundtrack of this movie.
Definitely, right.
But I don't think I really came into this movie expecting to be just caught up on, like, the simple facts that he's getting boners and he's farting and stuff
right. Yeah.
Because the reviews I read preparing me for it. And just the aesthetic of the trailer. Like, I knew that even if that was a part of the movie... It was there for, like, to be a unique thing rather than to, you know, boners for the sake of boners and farts for the sake of farts. Right. I think I came into it expecting to give it maybe like a 4. I thought it was going to be good.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was going to be this good.
Right? It's hard.
I literally had no expectations. I knew about it. I heard rumors. I did not watch the trailer because I don't watch trailers.
So when are you going to pull a Kevin and give this a 5, Mike?
I'm sorry.
When are you going to change your... So what is our final score?
It's going to round out... Well, it's going to come out to 4.8 repeating... 4.83 repeating, which is going to round down to 4.5 fingers. So,
damn it!
It's still in the top 5, top 10 for how many fingers. I'm sorry. It takes a lot for me to give a film a 5.
Oh, no, it's fine, yeah.
And I think for me, that half finger has to be like me being completely, fully in love with it.
Right.
And again, I think it's easier to make a film like The Witch. I think that's is that the only 5 I've given on this podcast?
Yes, that's your only 5,
I think it's easier for a film like The Witch to be a 5 because it benefits from being so completely singular in terms of aesthetic.
Right,
like it's in, like, the same color like the entire movie throughout. And it's a much simpler plot. This is a hard movie. It's a fucking impressive that it was able to get a 4.5 out of me, considering what type of, like, movie it is. Like, it's very all over the place.
It's also a hard sell. How did this movie get made?
Yes, I mean, this could have been a disaster.
Yeah,
especially for being
extremely low.
Especially for being someone's first movie and, like, being an independent movie, like, overall, like, yeah, like A24 like distributed this. Like,
A24 distributes so much good small independent films.
They've had great.
I'm like, how the hell did they make this?
Didn't they distribute The Witch?
Did they?
I thought it was. Didn't they do Green Room too?
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying that they're a bad. I'm just.
I know
they're very much always distributing independent movies.
But if A24 is going to distribute, what the hell is that movie Martin loves?
Yeah, it is
Skin movie.
Skin.
Under the Skin. Like, if A24 is going to distribute Under the Skin, like, this movie is just that same abstract, just in a different direction as that movie.
Part of me understands a little bit of why this movie was more accessible than The Witch. For example, I think The Witch was in the Sundance the year before Swiss Army Man. I think Swiss Army Man was in Sundance a few months ago, where The Witch was in. Yeah.
I still think Witch is eligible this year, though.
Right, yeah. But I think part of me understands why the plot would be more accessible, sort of, to the general public, and then part of me is also like, well, Daniel Radcliffe is Harry Potter, so like, you know, like that's easier to sell. Yeah, but yeah, I'm very satisfied with that score.
I'm always happy when we come up on one of these, like, universally, at least universally in terms of the people at this table and us reviewing it.
And
a
also,
movie we can agree on being an amazing, awesome fucking movie.
And also, fuck yourselves, critics, because critics gave it a 63.
Did they give it a 63, or did the aggregate of Rotten Tomatoes score come out to a 63?
Well, you know,
Because that comes out from...
it's a 66.
I'm sure the people who liked it probably gave it 100s and 99s and
right.
98s.
It's a 66.
And then the people who didn't, the
right,
40-something percent.
63 fresh, 32 rotten.
Yeah, so the 32% that didn't like it couldn't sit through fart jokes and can't appreciate that.
Yeah.
Not even fart jokes, just farts in general.
It
And
has
getting
a
over the
very
fact that
high
farts are not jokes.
audience score, though, of 82% liked it. So
Well, it's just like aesthetically, like, even if you can just like detach yourself from like being a critic and like looking for meaning and what is, if you can just sit there, like Jordan was saying, and just enjoy visual and auditory art, like sound wise, it's beautiful. Visually,
it's like a really
beautiful.
long music video.
And like, even
it's
if
kind
you
of like watching Tree of Life. It's kind of like, don't think that much about it. It's experience.
Especially the way that they do montages. I mean, there's like 2 or 3 separate montages in this movie, backed by the amazing soundtrack, but just like where there's like probably like days and days of footage crammed into like 3 minutes of even like a minute and a half of like montage in the movie, but to great effect.
I remember they've done like really great, or there's some sort of Facebook advertising that keeps popping up. I don't know if anybody actually says this stuff, but they've had really great descriptions of like, this is like Terrence Malick's like Weekend at Bernie's, or this is like if Steven Spielberg took acid or something. Like, they're all like really funny but like accurate descriptions.
Yeah, Terrence Malick Weekend at Bernie's fits very well.
Right, yeah. But yeah.
So yeah, 4.5 fingers from How Many Fingers the Podcast. Sorry guys.
For Swiss Army Man. No, it's fine,
yeah. So I think we'll sign out now at hour 45 where we're at now. Signing out for How Many Fingers the Podcast. I'm Mike.
And I'm Joe. And that's Jordan.
And that's Jordan. Yes, I'm Jordan.
And
we're gonna go eat this pizza.